Most of us have spent decades believing that if we just watch our salt and keep an eye on our cholesterol, our hearts will stay strong. It's the standard advice we've heard at every checkup since the 80s. But in my years of clinical practice, I've seen something deeply troubling. Patients following every heart-healthy rule, yet their arteries are quietly stiffening. There is a hidden saboteur lurking in your kitchen, often disguised in the very foods you believe are protecting you. Think of it like pouring thick, sticky molasses into a precision engine. At first, it just runs a bit slow, but eventually, the entire system grinds to a halt. This isn't a crisis. It's a slow, invisible caramelization of your blood vessels that accumulates over years without a single symptom until it's just too late. The real price isn't just a number on a lab report. It adds the terrifying risk of losing your independence and your ability to live life on your own terms. The good news is that you still have control. By unmasking this hidden poison today, you can begin to reclaim your future. Are you concerned or just curious? Comment, concerned or curious. When I sit down with my patients in the clinic, I often see a look of confusion when we start talking about sugar. Many of them say, "But Dr. Whitman, I eat an apple every morning. Isn't that sugar?" It is a vital question, and understanding the answer is the first step toward protecting your heart. We must draw a very clear line in the sand between natural sugar and added sugar. Think of a whole piece of fruit, like an orange. Nature was incredibly smart. It packaged that sugar with a dense matrix of fiber. When you eat that orange, the fiber acts like a slow-release valve in your gut. It prevents the sugar from hitting your liver all at once. It's a gentle, manageable trickle of energy. But what the food industry has done over the last 40 years is something entirely different. They have taken the sweetness, stripped away the fiber, and concentrated it into what we call added sugars, specifically processed fructose and high fructose corn syrup, HFCS. HFCS is a staple of the American pantry, but your body doesn't recognize it as food. It recognizes it as a metabolic shock. Unlike glucose, which every cell in your body can use for energy, fructose can only be processed by your liver. When you consume it in the form of a processed snack or a sweetened beverage, it's like a flash flood hitting a small town. The liver is overwhelmed, and it has no choice but to turn that excess sugar into fat immediately. The most sinister part of this is the deception. If I offered you a bowl of sugar, you'd know exactly what you were getting. But today, the most dangerous sugars in the American diet aren't found in the candy aisle. They are hidden in savory foods that you would never describe as sweet. I'm talking about that loaf of heart-healthy, whole wheat bread on your counter, which often contains as much sugar per slice as a cookie. I'm talking about tomato sauce, where sugar is added to mask the acidity of low-quality ingredients. Even your turkey ham, the lean protein you bought for your lunchtime sandwich, is often injected with sugar and corn syrup to improve its texture and shelf life. To understand the scale of this problem, we have to look at the landmark JAMA Internal Medicine study. Researchers didn't just look at people for a few weeks. They followed over 31,000 American adults for 15 years. What they found should have been front-page news across every paper in the country. Individuals who consumed 25% or more of their daily calories from added sugar had a threefold increase in the risk of dying from cardiovascular disease compared to those who kept it under 10%. Let's put those numbers into a visual you can use in your kitchen today. The average American adult currently consumes about 77 grams of added sugar every single day. That is roughly 19 teaspoons. If you sat at your kitchen table and tried to eat 19 teaspoons of white sugar with a spoon, you probably couldn't finish it. It would be sickening. Yet, because it's hidden in our bread, our sauces, and our healthy snacks, we consume it without a second thought. Contrast that with the World Health Organization, WHO, and American Heart Association, AHA, recommendations, which suggest a limit of 25 grams, or about 6 teaspoons. Most of us are living in a state of sugar overload, consuming triple the safe limit every day of our lives, and our hearts are paying the price. For nearly 50 years, the medical establishment told us that cholesterol was the primary villain. We were told to fear eggs, butter, and steak. But as a doctor who looks at the latest research, I can tell you that we were focusing on the wrong target. While we were busy cutting out fats, the food industry replaced that fat with sugar to keep things tasting good. The result? We didn't get healthier. Our heart disease rates continued to climb. Sugar is a far more potent driver of heart disease than cholesterol or salt ever was. To understand why, we need to look at the 4 devastating mechanisms by which sugar destroys your cardiovascular system. Triglycerides are the fats circulating in your blood. When your liver is bombarded with added sugar, it undergoes a process called de novo lipogenesis. Essentially, it starts manufacturing fat at an industrial rate. These fats are released into your bloodstream as VLDL, very low-density lipoproteins. A study from the University of California showed that consuming just 1 large soda, about 75 grams of sugar, raises your triglyceride levels by 32% in just 2 weeks. High triglycerides don't just sit in your blood, they act like a thick sludge that clogs your pipes and narrows your arteries. In the medical world, we call HDL the good cholesterol. I like to call it the trash truck of your bloodstream. Its job is to go around, pick up excess fat from your artery walls, and take it back to the liver to be disposed of. Sugar is a trash truck killer. According to a 2020 meta-analysis, high sugar intake reduces your HDL levels by as much as 23%. When you lose your trash trucks, the fat begins to pile up in your arteries, leading to atherosclerosis, the hardening and narrowing of the vessels. Most of my patients with hypertension are obsessed with their salt intake. They hide the salt shaker and buy low-sodium everything, but the British Journal of Nutrition published a study that turned this on its head. It showed that reducing added sugar actually lowers blood pressure more effectively than reducing salt. Here's why. High sugar intake raises insulin levels. High insulin tells your kidneys to hold on to sodium and water, which increases the volume of blood pushing against your vessel walls. Furthermore, the metabolism of fructose produces uric acid, which inhibits nitric oxide, the molecule that tells your blood vessels to relax. Without nitric oxide, your vessels stay tight and constricted, sending your blood pressure soaring. This is perhaps the most dangerous mechanism of all. Sugar doesn't just sit in your blood, it causes a chemical reaction called glycation. Imagine the inside of your arteries. They should be smooth and flexible like a garden hose. When sugar levels are constantly high, the sugar molecules stick to the proteins in your artery walls. This makes the arteries stiff and brittle. Worse, sugar activates inflammatory pathways, like NF-κB, that act like internal rust. This inflammation destabilizes the fatty plaques already in your arteries. Think of a plaque like a scab. If the area is inflamed, that scab can rupture, forming a clot. If that clot happens in your heart, it's a heart attack. If it happens in your brain, it's a stroke. This is why Dr. Robert Lustig, a world-renowned expert from the University of California, famously compared sugar to tobacco. He calls it a metabolic poison. Just as tobacco causes lung cancer in a predictable, slow-motion way, added sugar causes heart disease with the same devastating certainty. I want to take you on a mental trip to your local supermarket. Imagine a neighbor of ours. Let's call her Mrs. Margaret. She's 68, she's active, and she takes her health seriously. She's standing in the health food aisle, looking for a snack. She picks up a box of granola bars. The front of the box has pictures of green fields and says natural, whole grain, and heart healthy. Mrs. Margaret does exactly what we've been told to do. She flips the box over to read the label. She looks at the first ingredient, let's say it's oats. She thinks, great, oats are healthy. But as she reads further down, she sees things like brown rice syrup, evaporated cane juice, barley malt, and honey. What Mrs. Margaret doesn't realize is that the food industry is playing a masterful deception known as ingredient splitting. Because ingredients are listed by weight, manufacturers don't want to list sugar as the first ingredient because it would scare you away. So they use 3, 4, or even 6 different types of sugar. By splitting the sugar into different names, each sugar weighs less than the oats, allowing the oats to take the number one spot. In reality, if you added all those sugars together, the product would be 40% sugar. This is the 60 names label game. There are dozens of legal aliases for sugar. To protect yourself, you need to recognize the red flags. First, look for anything ending in ose: dextrose, fructose, glucose, lactose, maltose, sucrose. These are all pure sugar molecules. Second, beware of the concentrated syrups: sirop de agave, brown rice syrup, corn syrup, malt syrup. Agave is particularly deceptive. It's often marketed as a low glycemic health food, but it is actually up to 90% pure fructose, making it even more taxing on your liver than high fructose corn syrup. Third, watch out for the natural pretenders: cane crystals, fruit juice concentrate, coconut sugar, and turbinado sugar. While these may sound like they came straight from a farm, your liver doesn't care if the sugar is organic or raw. Once it hits your system, the metabolic damage to your triglycerides and blood pressure is the same. Because I know how exhausting it is to stand in a grocery aisle with a magnifying glass, I want to give you what I call the Whitman rule. It's a simple two-part test for any packaged food. The 3-ingredient rule: if any form of sugar appears in the first 3 ingredients on the list, put it back. It is essentially a candy bar in disguise. The 5-ingredient rule: if a product has more than 5 ingredients total, it is highly processed, and the likelihood of hidden sugars and additives increases exponentially. By following these rules, you aren't just shopping. You are taking back the power that the food industry has tried to take from you. As your doctor, I want to be very specific. General advice is hard to follow, so let us look at the 10 specific items that are likely in your pantry right now. Items you bought because you wanted to do the right thing for your health, but which are actually heart traps. This is perhaps the biggest tragedy in the dairy aisle. We were told for years that fat is bad, so we bought low-fat yogurt. But when you remove the fat from yogurt, it tastes like chalk. To make it edible, manufacturers add massive amounts of sugar, often 24 to 26 grams per cup. When you eat this, you get a massive insulin spike without the healthy fats that would normally keep you full. The Whitman alternative: buy plain, full-fat Greek yogurt and add your own fresh blueberries. These are marketed as the fuel of hikers and athletes. In reality, most of them are held together by a glue of corn syrup and honey. A single bar can have more sugar than a glazed donut. For a senior trying to manage their blood pressure, this is a disaster disguised as a health snack. This is a tough one for many of my patients to hear. But it's 100% juice, Dr. Whitman. Yes, but it takes about 5 to 6 oranges to fill 1 glass of juice. When you drink that juice, you get all the sugar of 6 oranges in 30 seconds, but 0 of the fiber. It is a fructose punch, delivered directly to your liver. A study in JAMA Network Open found that drinking fruit juice daily was associated with an increased risk of premature death, similar to drinking soda. Check the labels on those boxes that claim to lower cholesterol. You will often find 10, 12, or 15 grams of sugar per serving. And let us be honest, most of us eat a bowl that is twice the size of a standard serving. You are starting your day with a metabolic inflammatory bomb. Whether it SBBQ sauce for your chicken or a light raspberry vinaigrette for your salad, these are sugar traps. 1 tablespoon of ketchup has about a teaspoon of sugar. If you use 3 tablespoons on your meatloaf, you've just had a dessert's worth of sugar before you've even finished your entree. To make mass-produced bread soft and give it a long shelf life, manufacturers add sugar and molasses. 2 slices of a typical commercial whole wheat bread can contain 6 to 10 grams of added sugar. Over a year, that adds up to pounds of hidden sugar that your heart has to deal with. These products use celebrity athletes and vitamin branding to seem healthy. But unless you are running a marathon in the heat, you do not need the 30-plus grams of sugar found in these bottles. They are essentially fancy soda with a marketing degree. Dried fruit is sugar that has been concentrated by removing the water. It's very easy to overeat. A handful of raisins has significantly more sugar than a handful of grapes. Worse, many brands add extra sugar to dried cranberries or mangoes to make them even sweeter. Many of my patients have switched to almond, soy, or oat milk to avoid dairy. However, if you buy the vanilla or original versions, they are almost always sweetened. A single glass can have 15 grams of sugar. Always look for the word unsweetened on the label. High-protein cookies, fit shakes, and protein bars often use sugar to hide the metallic taste of cheap protein powders. You think you are building muscle, but the sugar is actually damaging your arteries. To back this up, consider the Yale University study, which analyzed products with health claims on their packaging. Words like natural, whole grain, or heart healthy. They found that 80 out of 100 of these products contained sugar levels classified as high by the WHO. This is the reality of the American grocery store. It is a minefield. But now that you know where the mines are, you can walk through them safely. You are no longer a victim of marketing. You are an informed guardian of your own cardiovascular health. In the next section, we will look at exactly what this sugar does to your cells, and then I will give you the 4-week plan to clear it out for good. To truly protect your heart, you must understand the invisible chain reaction that occurs every time you consume added sugar. Many of my patients think that if they don't have diabetes, sugar isn't hurting them. That is a dangerous misconception. The damage to your cardiovascular system starts long before your blood sugar levels ever show up as abnormal on a standard lab test. When you eat that healthy granola bar or drink that orange juice, your body experiences a massive influx of glucose and fructose. To handle the glucose, your pancreas pumps out insulin, a hormone whose job is to unlock your cells so they can take in energy. But when you do this multiple times a day, for years, your cells stop listening. They become insulin resistant. Think of it like a doorbell that is being rung constantly. Eventually, you just stop answering it. This leaves both insulin and sugar circulating in your blood, where they begin to irritate the delicate lining of your arteries. While your cells are ignoring the glucose, your liver is dealing with a much worse problem: fructose. Remember, your liver is the only organ that can process fructose. When it hits the liver in high concentrations, it's like a flash flood hitting a dry creek bed. The liver cannot use it all, so it triggers a process called de novo lipogenesis. It literally builds fat molecules out of thin air. A landmark study from the University of California and the University of Zurich demonstrated that just 7 days of high fructose intake increased the liver's fat production by a staggering 142%. This isn't just belly fat. This is a specific type of fat called VLDL, which goes directly into your bloodstream to become the sticky plaques that cause heart attacks. This is a concept I want you to visualize clearly. Have you ever seen a chef make caramel? They take white sugar, heat it up, and it turns into a brown, sticky, brittle substance. Inside your body, at 98.6 degrees, a similar process called glycation happens. When you have excess sugar in your blood, it literally sticks to the proteins that make up your artery walls. These are called advanced glycation end products, or appropriately, AGEs. These AGEs turn your flexible, elastic arteries into brittle, caramelized tubes. A study published in the journal Circulation found that high sugar consumption increases arterial stiffness by 30%, regardless of your age or weight. For a person over 60, this stiffness is the primary driver of the top number in your blood pressure, systolic, creeping higher and higher. Finally, we must talk about how a heart attack actually happens. Most people think an artery just plugs up like a kitchen sink. It's actually more like a volcano. You have a plaque, a fatty buildup in your artery. Sugar triggers a high state of systemic inflammation. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed 70,000 women and found that high sugar intake was directly linked to elevated C-reactive protein, a marker of inflammation. This inflammation makes the cap on your plaque thin and unstable. When that cap ruptures, like a volcanic eruption, your body tries to heal the spot by forming a clot. That clot blocks the blood flow instantly. If it's in the heart, it's an infarct. If it's in the brain, it's a stroke. This is the science that led Dr. Rachel Johnson, former chair of the American Heart Association's Nutrition Committee, to state that eliminating added sugar is the #1 dietary change you can make to save your life. It stops the caramelization, cools the inflammation, and stabilizes your plaques. Now, I know what you were thinking. Dr. Whitman, I've been eating this way for 60 years. It's too hard to change now. I want to tell you something that the food industry doesn't want you to know. Your sweet tooth is not a character flaw. It is a biological addiction. Functional MRI studies have shown that when you eat sugar, the reward centers of your brain light up exactly like they do for cocaine or heroin. Your brain releases dopamine, which tells you, do that again. This is why you crave that piece of bread or that afternoon healthy snack. To break this, we don't use willpower. We use a system. In the first 7 days, I don't want you to change a single thing you eat. Instead, I want you to become a sugar detective. The daily photo log. Take a photo of everything you eat. Why? Because we tend to forget the little things. The creamer in the coffee, the bite of a cookie, the dressing on the salad. The label hunt. Flip over every box in your pantry. Look for those 60 hidden names. Count the grams. The goal. Just see the truth. Knowledge is the foundation of change. In week 2, we tackled the single most dangerous source of added sugar, liquids. Because liquids have no fiber, they hit your liver with the most force. The rule: eliminate all sodas, all 100% juices, and all sweetened coffees or teas. The result: a study from Virginia Tech showed that people who only changed their drinks, nothing else, lost weight, and saw a 23% reduction in triglycerides in just 2 weeks. This is the fastest way to depressurize your cardiovascular system. Now that your drinks are clean, we fix the dopamine morning. Most American breakfasts are actually just desserts. The swap: replace the cereal, muffins, and toast with proteins and healthy fats. Think eggs with spinach, or plain Greek yogurt with walnuts. The snack reset. If you are hungry between meals, it's because your blood sugar is crashing. Instead of a granola bar, reach for a handful of almonds or a hard-boiled egg. By week 3, your insulin levels will start to stabilize, and those shakes or brain fog episodes will begin to disappear. By the final week, we reclaim your kitchen from the food scientists. The rule: if a food has more than 5 ingredients, it stays at the store. The dinner shift: focus on whole foods, a piece of wild-caught salmon, a large pile of roasted broccoli, and perhaps a small portion of quinoa or a sweet potato. The result: you are no longer eating food products. You are eating nutrients. Your body will feel the difference in your energy levels almost immediately. I want to be very honest with you as your doctor. The first 10 days of this plan might feel like the flu. This is what we call sugar withdrawal. A study found that 87 out of 100 people who abruptly stop added sugar experience headaches, irritability, and intense cravings. This is actually a good sign. It means your metabolism is shifting from being a sugar burner to being a fat burner. To get through this bridge to better health, here are my Dr. Whitman survival tips. Hydration is non-negotiable. Most sugar cravings are actually disguised thirst. When a craving hits, drink a full glass of water first. The 10-minute walk. Exercise releases a small amount of endorphins that can quiet the dopamine-hungry part of your brain. Salt and magnesium. When insulin drops, your body releases stored water and salt. Sometimes, a little extra sea salt on your food or a magnesium supplement can stop the headaches. You don't have to live a life without sweetness, but you have to choose your tools wisely. Stevia, 100% pure. This is a plant-based extract that doesn't trigger an insulin response. Make sure it's not bulked up with dextrose. Monk fruit, an incredible natural sweetener that is 200 times sweeter than sugar, but has 0 calories and 0 impact on your liver fat. Erythritol, a sugar alcohol that is not metabolized by the body. It's great for baking, though some people find it causes slight bloating if they eat too much. I see this every day in my clinic. A patient tells me, "I stopped sugar. I only use honey and maple syrup now." I have to tell them the hard truth. Your liver cannot tell the difference between raw, organic honey and high fructose corn syrup. They both contain high levels of fructose. While honey has a few antioxidants, it still causes the same triglyceride spike and the same glycation, caramelization, in your arteries. If you are trying to prevent a heart attack, these must be used very sparingly. Think of them as a condiment, not an ingredient. The most exciting part of this journey happens around the 90-day mark. A famous study from the University of Washington followed participants who cut out added sugar. After 3 months, they were given normal processed foods. 92% of them found the food sickeningly sweet or unpleasant. Their taste buds had resensitized. When you reach this point, you have won. You will find that a plain strawberry tastes like a burst of candy. A roasted carrot will taste incredibly sweet. You are no longer a slave to the hyper-palatable chemicals of the food industry. You are in control. You are protecting your independence. You are ensuring that you will be there for the weddings, the graduations, and the quiet Sunday mornings for decades to come. This is a blueprint for independence. By understanding the science of how sugar caramelizes your arteries and following this 4-week transition, you are doing more for your heart than any pill could ever do. If you are ready to take this step, I want to see your commitment. Comment, "I am taking control," below. I read these comments, and they inspire me to keep bringing you this life-saving information. Don't forget to share this with someone you love, perhaps a spouse or a sibling who needs to hear this. I'm Dr. Eric Whitman. Thank you for trusting me with your health. Let's protect that heart of yours. I'll see you in the next video. The single biggest threat you face isn't a sudden event. It's the silent, invisible accumulation of sugar caramelizing your arteries over decades. If you have ever reached for a heart-healthy snack or a loaf of bread without a second thought, please know that you aren't at fault. It is not because you were careless. It is because the system hasn't provided the clarity you deserve to see the traps hidden in plain sight. The good news is that the steering wheel is still in your hands. Just by shifting your awareness today, you are already reclaiming your independence and protecting your future quality of life. If this information reached you at the right time, please leave a brief comment like "eyes open" or "ready to start." Choosing to follow this channel isn't about entertainment. It is a proactive measure to ensure you do not miss these early warnings while you still have the power to act. Because as dangerous as hidden sugar is, there is another daily habit, even new, more common, that is quietly straining your heart right now. I tell you this because I've seen far too many people who only wished they had known these truths sooner. Your heart has been beating for you since before you were born. Now, it's your turn to take care of it.